this was one of his takeaways. We've been looking in the mirror and we've been saying, wow, look at how good this is. We need to look out a window and we need to hear what's really happening on the outside.
Customer experience wisdom, a dash of travel talk. We've been cleared for takeoff.
The best meals are served outside and require a passport.
Off to Ohio today as we speak with Liz Okuma, Director of Client Experience at the American Endowment Foundation. Now, when you hear Endowment Foundation, your first thought is probably something like, isn't that just for rich universities? What does that have to do with customer experience? But Liz is proving there is a whole world of CX opportunity in places, well, that don't always show up in the usual CX conference circuit. And what's interesting is she's stepping into this space after decades of CX industry progress, bringing that modern thinking into a place that's ready to level up on how it connects with clients. She's also doing the hard work of defining what good actually looks like, building internal buy-in and figuring out how to serve clients she may never meet in person. Liz, welcome to CX Passport.
Thanks, Rick. I'm so excited to be here today. Thanks for the opportunity.
And I'm very excited to have you on the show as well. I love it when it's a category we don't talk about. This is new to us. And so new to me, new to the listeners. So let's just start with those basics. For those of us unfamiliar, what exactly is a donor advised fund? And what makes CX in that space different from more of the traditional industries?
Sure. Yeah, that is a great question. Thanks so much. So a donor advised fund, or a DAF, as we like to call it in the industry, is the fastest growing charitable strategy that we have for clients. Think of it as a account that you can just go in and give money and be philanthropic. It's great that donors get to put assets into this account and then get an immediate tax deduction on those assets, and then decide to give in a year or 10 years or 20 years. Okay. At the American Endowment Foundation, we think of ourselves as a triangle. So we've got the donor at the top that we are trying to serve, but on the right side of the triangle, we also have our financial advisors and their offices. So we get and receive our donors through our financial advisors and through the firms that we work with. And then we, as an American Endowment Foundation, are the DAF sponsor. So we have the opportunity to serve those financial advisors and those donors on their charitable giving throughout the year. And we sponsor that. What makes it so interesting is this is lots and lots of phone calls and lots of emails back and forth, but it's never across the counter. We're never talking to that donor or that financial advisor face to face. And I shouldn't say never. Sure. We have donors that show up in Hudson, Ohio. I've been here 2 years and we've had 2. Okay. We see financial advisors at conferences when we go to their conferences. But for the most part, 90%, 99% of our work is done via phone, via email, and our process. That's why it's so important that we've got clear processes, we've got streamlined communications with our clients, because we are building trust in a different space than maybe a Target, than maybe some other Starbucks, some other organizations.
Well, and I imagine there's a wide spectrum also of dollars that are passing through. So some intensity around, is my experience high quality or not? You mentioned 2 sets of customers there. And forgive me if I'm using the wrong words. Y'all may have different phrasing for it, but you've got the financial advisors who might be advising their customers, their clients, hey, this DAF is the right solution. And then those end clients likely interact with, or at least appreciate or expect a certain experience. How do y'all nuance the difference between going to those different roles?
Right. And I think that it's about listening to what the clients need. Okay. So our financial advisors really want us to provide good experience to their donors. We are like a mouthpiece for them. So it's really important that we know how to work with their donors. We know how to work with their back offices and streamline those processes. Our donors, on the other hand, want to send checks. They want to send wires. They want to ACH information
Mm-hmm.
or money to that
Mm-hmm.
organization. And so they have different needs. They're on our platform. They want to be able to do that from their mobile phone and send money when they get asked for money or when they want to make a donation. So it's really understanding what the needs are of the two clients. Financial advisors also want us to be thought leaders. They want us to bring us things that they can bring to their donors and say, hey, have you thought about this? They also want us to provide reports and make it easy for them to sit down with a client and say, wow, look at your giving the last 6 months. Look at what you've done. What other space do you want to be in? So we really have to serve multiple different clients here at AEF.
If we have time, I want to come back to that because when you have different clients, there's different listening, there's different execution around that. I want to talk about, though, internally, because you had mentioned earlier to me that you had talked about that people felt pretty confident about the client experience, but there really wasn't much of a perspective from outside of the organization. How did you start shifting that focus away from, hey, we think it is this, to what it actually is beyond those internal assumptions?
Yeah, that's a great question. I arrived 2 years ago, and what I heard from our CEO at that time is we have been looking, and he was new to the organization as well. And so this was one of his takeaways. We've been looking in the mirror and we've been saying, wow, look at how good this is. We need to look out a window and we need to hear what's really happening on the outside. And so I had the opportunity and made opportunities for myself to really listen to our donors and our advisors, and in some cases, into the advisor associates that we are working with every day here. And so I took those stories with the data that we had and made them real to the organization. In addition, I listened to our internal team members. They had lots of stories to tell. They had lots of concerns that they wanted to bring up and figure out how to change processes. And so it really was a listening tour to be able then to maybe flip the script a little bit of saying, hey, there's a world out there.
This is your captain speaking. I want to thank you for listening to CX Passport today. We've now reached our cruising altitude, so I'll turn that seatbelt sign off. While you're getting comfortable, hit that follow or subscribe button on your favorite podcast app so you'll never miss an episode. Love it if you'd tell a friend about CX Passport, leave a review so others can discover the show as well. Now, sit back and enjoy the rest of the episode.
100%. You may have even seen, and viewers would have seen me start to grin right about the point that you said, talk to our internal associates, team members. It shocks me how many companies overlook that, that rich source of customer insight. Is this something that you brought in because of experience from your past? How did you bring that in? And how did you make sure that everybody understood, look, there is a rich treasure trove of insights if we just talk to our frontline?
Yeah, I think that it's really been a philosophy. Before I came to AEF, I spent 25 years in higher education. And I had the opportunity to work as a vice president for student affairs. And what I really thought about, and I did every day on that college campus, was I couldn't see students every day, but I knew my staff did. And it was really, really, I felt like I could service my staff and my students better if I listened to what they had to tell me and got them answers and made processes smoother. So for me, it's really a philosophy of, I really want to have a staff who really wants to be there and is really excited, because that translates to our customers. And here's the same way, Rick. Like, I think it's important. I say to my staff all the time, I work for you every day. And they're like, do you see the org chart? Yeah, I do. But the important part of it is that I'm here to make your job easier. So ultimately, it's easier for our clients.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, we've seen even visual manifestations of that where the org chart gets flipped upside down, so you're supporting. But a chart is really irrelevant as opposed to actual tangible actions. And I think about that when you had mentioned to me that the CEO has asked for, in quotes here, best in class client experience. Well, that sounds really ambitious and also a little vague, kind of like me talking about, well, you can put a chart on the wall. How do you define what that actually means in a practical day-to-day way?
Yeah, so that is a great question. So it's not a buzzword here. I can tell you that It is part of our business strategy. So it's best in class client experience is part of it. It's the second part of our strategy. But we really defined it as what's our trust? How are we building trust with our clients? How are we responsive to them? How are we making it easy for them to do work with us? And how do we continue that engagement to continue either our current client and making sure that we're retaining them or engaging with new clients. And so one of the things we did very early on was really talk about how those are actionable and tangible. People can see that. People can see, oh, wow, look at this engagement I had with this advisor or this donor. People can see when we're responsive. And so really trying to take it out of the clouds and bring it back down into a more actionable and tangible strategy for our internal team members.
Can I pull on that a little bit? And that is, talk to me about some of the tactical ways that you did that, because that's something, forget donor advised funds, endowments. That's true of any company. When you're talking about a vision, it gets into sort of execution, and then actually at the front line, fingers on keyboard, how are you translating that vision into actual actions that folks can take going forward?
So let's talk about that a little bit. One of the things that I did probably after my listening tour was I went and we put together what we called a discovery team. It was a person from every different department. The great thing about that is that we took a journey map and we mapped from the beginning of the experience to the end of the experience. And at that point in time, you should have seen the light bulbs go off with our team members like, wow, that's a gap. I didn't know you did that. Why are we doing that if you did that? And so we were able to see some of those gaps. And so what we did early on in our process, and we're still early on, I say early on, but we're still new at this, is we took the low-hanging fruit. And so one of the things that we were able to do very quickly is we had a 10-page maybe welcome packet that we sent out to advisors and donors, like in a folder. Who does that anymore? And so we had people stuffing it. We had people putting labels on it. And so this team got together with our marketing department and put together a digital marketing hub. What a great thing. We were able to send those out. We were able to show a financial impact on the work that we were doing. You know, we cut down on people having to do that and resources and postage. And so those types of things. We have another example of a liquidity project that took us about 3.5 months to do. And once we got this team together and started to think maybe a little bit more cross collaboration, we started to think about that differently. We were able to move a process from 3.5 months to 6 weeks. Whoa. Amazing progress. And so when we talk about responsiveness and we talk about ease, and we're able to take some of these big, heavy lifts and show our internal team, see what I mean? Like, look at how responsive we are to this. Look at how easy it is. It's easy for you as our internal teams. Imagine what it's like for our clients right now. Something that took 3.5 months takes 6 weeks. Like, so those are the type of things, Rick, that we did to really start to the tangible things to start to make a difference.
Well, and the victories and sharing those victories, like, and we talk so much in CX about things that aren't necessarily direct business value. That's direct business value. And shrinking that down. And that is spectacular. And so let's talk about that, because you brought a sense of modernity that we talked about that you've got from the outside that you brought in. There were elements of the usual CX ingredients in place when you got their surveys, scorecards, that sort of thing. But as you've talked to me here and as we talked before, you're able to kind of leapfrog a lot of that. How have you been able to take those tools and move past the typical CX baggage to create something more meaningful?
I think it's really about this change in our, not to be cliche, but really our design thinking and who's at the table and why what I'm doing in my department matters to what the next person is doing in their department, and really starting to open team members' eyes a little bit on, wow, what I'm doing does make a difference to the organization. In addition, I think, so we did surveys, we had surveys, we looked at those, but numbers really don't make the impact as stories do. It's understanding the why. Why are we doing it this way? And why is this causing issues? And so it was flipping the script a little bit of, yes, we might have scored this, and that's great. And we should be proud of that. But really, why did we score that? Or why didn't we score that with our population? And so really using that data to understand it. In addition, the other thing that we have started here is a dashboard, and that can sound pretty intimidating. Like, what do you measure? You have to measure everything in the world. What do you measure? Blah, blah, blah. And it's really about taking chunks at a time and saying, these are the most important measurements to us, whether it's reducing call time or whether it's looking at our retention or looking at our additional gifts or looking at our engaged advisors, looking at really slices of that and developing not this huge dashboard, but really a dashboard that people can get around. Maybe it's an Excel spreadsheet first. I mean, you have to start somewhere. But what I am really trying to instill here is you cannot manage what you can't measure. And so we have to make sure that we are measuring, even if it's the little things, and then reporting back out on that. Look at what we did here. Also look at what we talked about earlier, the business financial impact. Everything we're doing should have some business financial impact around that. And so I think it was maybe going back to the basics a little bit, Rick, and not just survey, and what's our NPS score and what's our EMPS score and all that. It was really about, okay, understanding some of the why so that we could plan specifically on some of the things that we would change to make a difference in the new year.
Oh, Liz, I can't begin to tell you how much, like, my cheeks are a little sore from grinning. I'm trying to restrain it because you're hitting at so many of my sweet spots when it comes to tangible business value. You mentioned, though, I'm going to take a little break here because you mentioned you get 2 visitors, one a year. And so there may be some travel involved for them getting to Ohio. I'm sure that they might have enjoyed stopping off in the First Class Lounge. Well, I'm going to invite you to do that now. Stop off here in the First Class Lounge with me. We'll move quickly and have a little bit of fun here. What is a dream travel location from your past?
From my past, it's the Disney cruise. It was absolutely wonderful.
Really?
My kids were young. Every time we turned the corner, we saw a character. Disney knew what I needed before I even needed it. And it's one of those things that it was a great vacation and one that I would hope to get back on soon. I'm not promoting them or plugging them. I'm just saying it was a great vacation from the past.
Yeah, I can assure you, I do have no affiliate links with Disney. Otherwise, we'd be promoting the heck out of those right now.
Exactly.
Yeah, I've seen some things, but I'm not a cruise person, but I've seen something about the Disney cruises and how they even handle if you're inside the portholes and the animation and all that. They just do such a great job with the experience, as I've at least read about. And so now you've got that experience, that it's your actual dream trip from the past. That's awesome. How about the other way? What's a dream travel location you've not been to yet?
I really want to go down under. I really want to get to Australia. And a dream would be to go on a boat. I'd really love to see it on a boat. Flying in an airplane from Ohio to Australia doesn't sound very exciting, but traveling the seas to go to get there, number one, it would be a vacation of a lifetime. It would take a ton of time to get there, but I'd love to go see down under. I
don't think I realized that when you were saying that. I thought you meant a boat that would just go around the continent. You mean take a boat from the Western Hemisphere to Australia.
That's right.
How about it? Okay.
Yeah.
You're going to have to look into that one. That sounds interesting.
Yeah.
Well, there will be plenty of meals on that boat when you're going from the Western Hemisphere to down under. What is a favorite thing of yours to eat?
Brussels sprouts.
Get out.
I love Brussels sprouts. And you know what? When I was talking about this with my family, they're like, do not say that. That sounds terrible. But I have to tell you, this is something I never experienced as a child, ever. My mom did not like them, but I have never met a Brussels sprout that I do not like right now. I think our taste buds change as we get older, but I love Brussels sprouts. If I have an opportunity, I'm having a Brussels sprout.
And Liz, here I thought you and I were going to be friends. And now I'm thinking about just terminating the episode right now, because longtime listeners know that is one of the foods that I consider that Satan himself created. So I've never, and I mean this, never heard somebody declare it as their favorite thing to eat. It's actually usually the answer to this next question. So I'll ask you, you're going to say like ice cream or something. What is something you were forced to eat growing up, but you hated as a kid?
Yogurt.
Okay. Yeah, I could see that.
Absolutely. It was just like everybody has to have yogurt, and I just didn't have that palate. But we always had it, and it was always in my lunch, and it was always something that we needed to have. And it just, I kind of really wanted to like it, but I didn't. And so it was yogurt. And you're probably hoping that I say Brussels sprouts again. I didn't.
Well, I was, but I guess not. But at least you haven't totally flipped it and like, I really hated ice cream and pizza as a kid or something like that. And it just completely blown my brain for the day.
I hated candy.
Yeah. Unfortunately, Liz, I love the laughing. I love all the fun here that we're having in the lounge. Sadly, we're going to have to leave, though. What is one travel item, not including your phone, not including your passport, that you will not leave home without?
My AirPods. Oh, my goodness. I love to listen to podcasts. I love to listen to books when I'm traveling. I love to listen to music. And sometimes I don't like to listen to others. And so for me, making sure that I have those, it's really important. Helps my travel, keep me sane.
Liz, you snuck in a little phrase in there. Sometimes I just don't want to listen to others. And yes, these headphones that those can see on screen right now are one of the best things I've ever purchased, and it is noise canceling headphones.
There you go.
And maybe I will slip an affiliate link in for these guys because they're awesome. You had said something to me earlier, and we even talked about it a little bit, where a lot of the roles there simply don't ever face a customer. You mentioned the two that have come in face to face, yet these people's work really impacts the ultimate experience that the customer receives. How do you get those people bought in when CX feels really disconnected from their role? And how do you make sure that they just don't see this as another item for their to-do list?
Yeah, it's not a check off the list right now. And it's not also, I've seen some companies that it's about getting points or getting rewarded. It's really about making the connection clear and visible to the employees, to our team members here. I also think it's about those wins and celebrating those wins. And so outside of my door right now, it's giving season. So you can imagine in the financial world business, we do 65% of our business now until the end of the year. So we are hopping out there. But one of the things I started last year and was asked to bring it back this year by our employees is a giving season map. It's the journey map. And so we've got red Post-its, we've got yellow Post-its, we've got green Post-its. We can celebrate on those yellow Post-its. We can say, hey, this isn't working on a red Post-it. Let's fix this for next year. The green Post-its are, hey, have we ever thought about this? Here's an idea. But it's really important that those yellow Post-its are out there and we're celebrating our wins. This is really good. This happened. Thank you so much, so-and-so, for making sure that you could help me support this financial advisor in the best way I could. We have a saying here that says, if you have a deadline on the inside, please understand you've made it on the outside for our support teams. And so it's really important that we meet our deadlines. So it's not a checklist. It's something that we are trying to instill in our culture. When we talk about trust, when we talk about responsiveness, we talk about ease and engagement, our employees want that as well. They want to come to work every day at a place that they know and they can trust. And that their job is as easy as possible. We're all looking for that easy as possible. And so I really do think that that our employees are really living this in a different way. So it's not a checklist. It's not a, oh, I didn't see any clients today. That face-to-face that you and I were talking about. It's really about, I did hear this client on the phone who was struggling. I do hear this financial advisor who's really frustrated. How can I help them?
That triggered a little thought there. those stories that you talked about, hey, I just helped this financial advisor, I just helped this client. And I realize there's a lot of confidentiality, sensitivity. So there may be stories that you can or can't say here or the like. How are those stories shared inside of the organization then? Or is there a story that you could share here of a really significant victory that then is something that has inspired the rest of the company around customer experience?
Yeah, that's a great question, Rick. I think that let's talk about the sharing of stories first.
Okay.
One, we have a CX website. We have a web page. We have an internal web page that employees can share stories. They can, make shout outs to their other team members that are helping them. This journey map, I wish I could walk you out there. This journey map has yellow Post-it notes all through the journey map. So we are sharing stories and we are sharing wins. I think that I can talk about one of our visitors who came to see us a couple weeks ago. He was in Ohio. He was doing business. He had never seen us physically. And so he really wanted to come here. He was a little frustrated with maybe some of his fees that he was paying and had some questions about his successor plan. And, we welcomed him. He came in. He was surprised to see the organization and what was happening. He'd always been on the phone, but it was almost like a book. You read a book and then you see the characters. You're like, oh, wow.
Yeah.
He got a chance to actually see what was happening. Before he left, he was able to meet with our CFO. He was able to meet with our CEO and really put faces with names. And that's really what this is like. It's about building that trust from afar. Yeah. But I think one of those donors came and was really re-engaged with, I do. This organization is working for me, and I want to make sure that I keep my money here.
I like that. Hey, it sounds like y'all need to start a tour group and invite more folks in. You have shared so much with me, Liz, about all the wisdom that you brought in this and the tactical elements. Like there's some really good elements to this. Well, I can see why you were a finalist for a Women in CX Collaboration Award. That came from real change, actual business results, reducing call times, redesigning processes, and bringing people together. Everything we have just talked about. How do you pull off that cross-functional work? And then what does it teach you about the influence that is required throughout an organization?
Yeah, that's a really great question. In talking about the discovery team, I think that was really the first step to say, hey, come together. Let's talk about what issues you are facing. Let's make sure we educate you on what that person's doing next to you. We talked about that already. That's really important. That design thinking and those quick wins are really pushing the organization to say, this is our standard. We will always have meetings with cross collaboration between departments. I just had a meeting yesterday we're trying to solve this problem, and people said, okay, well, who should be in the meeting? And they're like, well, we need somebody from here. We need somebody from here. We need somebody from here. We can't solve this in a silo. And I was like, oh my goodness, thank you. Like this is really happening. And it's not coming from me. It's coming from the team members that see how far we've gone. We've made real progress here. We've looked at the CX maturity matrix. Where are we on that? What improvements have we made? And so it's really, it's really about letting our employees also speak for themselves. And I was so excited to hear employees say a couple weeks ago, we're putting the journey map back up because that really helps us. We get ideas in this busy time. Are we going to invite these people to the meeting? Because we can't be in a silo. We get more done when we've got the right people in the room. I'm excited to see those conversations happening. And I'm excited to see that our employees now they feel empowered and they feel like they can actually make change with the experience. And so that has been absolutely wonderful to see. This isn't about Liz Okuma at all. This is really about all the employees who've come together to make those processes that we just talked about hum. And also when it doesn't work or when we think that process is really good, those owners are saying, we could make it a little bit better. What if we do this next year? And so that's exciting to see in an organization.
Now, I said I was going to end it on the Brussels sprouts earlier, but this is where we're going to end it because that is the real impact comes out when it's not you
Yep.
being the forced driver of it, but rather the organic culture and the employees themselves take it forward. Liz, absolutely. If folks wanted to get to know a little bit more about you, get to know a little bit more about donor advised funds or the American Endowment Foundation, what's the best place for them to find more?
Our website. So I encourage you to go to aefonline.org to see what opportunities we have here. If you have somebody who needs a DAF or would like to start that philanthropic fund. I'm on LinkedIn, Liz Okuma. If you want to connect me with me there, I'd love to connect and continue the conversation. I have learned a ton, and I have so much more to learn. So being able to connect with others is really important to me.
That's fantastic. I will get all of that in the show notes. Liz, This has been a great eye-opening moment for me because I just never thought about a DAF. I never thought about endowments really being focused on customer experience. I just kind of selfishly thought about them as money houses, right? And no, it's so much more than that. And you've helped walk us through that, both just conceptually and then really getting into the tactics of it. Those nuts and bolts are going to be helpful, not just to the industry you and I are talking about, but to customer experience industries across multiple industries. Liz, it has been an absolute treat having you on the show. Thank you for being on CX Passport.
Love the opportunity. Thanks, Rick, so much for having me today.
Thanks for joining us this week on CX Passport. If you like today's episode, I have 3 quick next steps for you. Click subscribe on the CX Passport YouTube channel or your favorite podcast app. Next, leave a comment below the video or a review in your favorite podcast app so others can find and enjoy CX Passport too. Then head over to cxpassport.com for show notes and resources that can help you create tangible business results by delivering great customer experience. Until next time, I'm Rick Denton, and I believe the best meals are served outside and require a passport.